he can make baseball look like it's on demand at times.
This is weird. You see that, Potsy? You get that, the Freddie Freeman.
You were tracking this guy all the way over here.
Well, yeah, he's in full uni, dude.
Let's see. Is he gonna do the hold the
He
bat
was
up?
earlier.
Oh. All right. Well, yeah. So maybe there's some pressure on Freddie to perform too. Hello and welcome back to Dodger Debate, a very special Dodger Debate here from Tokyo, outside the Tokyo Dome. I'm Jack Harris, the LA Times Dodgers beat reporter, along with Dylan Hernández, our locally famous columnist. Because Dylan, look, okay, Ohtani is on the newspapers here. He's on the, what is this, the green tea here?
Green tea.
What is this called?
Oyocha.
Oyocha. But
Unchi means defecation.
Yes, see, because of Dylan, I only learn like the really colorful parts of the Japanese language, which is why this word is stuck in my head. But as we were walking around yesterday, you were the one who kept getting stopped outside the stadium here by fans, even some in Ohtani jerseys, who were just such admirers of your work. What was that like? What has it been like here? And yeah, are you like number 2 to Ohtani? Is that fair to say in terms of like Japanese American fame?
Japanese American fame?
Yeah, I'm trying to be modest here.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, and I kind of wrote about this a little bit, right? Obviously, Ohtani's such a big star here, to where people become famous by association, right? I mean, you know, I think we saw earlier today some footage of like Kike Hernandez making some kind of appearance, and you know, the long lines there. I mean, you see all these people here, and kind of like one thing, you know, as big as the Dodgers are, as popular as baseball is here, it doesn't get to this level if Ohtani's not here, you know. And again, he, you know, I know I've kept using this phrase over and over, but I really do feel like he is how this culture views itself. He embodies, you know, all of the good things that, right, or at least the way they view it, and he's kind of the physical embodiment of that. So, yeah, again, you're kind of associated with him in any way, right? You get recognized. So,
yeah, and that's been one of the things that being around the last couple of days here, at least to somebody, you know, who has not been in this country before and didn't really have an appreciation for exactly how like the popularity of the Dodgers and Ohtani manifests itself. I think you see it in like scenes like this. Like, this is an exhibition game. We saw it yesterday, the first workout, a workout. There were 10,000 people in there to watch the Dodgers take batting practice and like do throwing drills from the outfield. To me, it's been a good reminder, and I think especially for like other guys on the team who maybe couldn't grasp this, you know, like last year, so much of like the Japanese influence around the team was from all the extra reporters that were around and the advertising that you saw in the stadium and, you know, the videos you saw come over from Japan. But I think what's been really interesting about this trip so far is it's given a lot of these guys on the team and the organization a really kind of more tangible idea of why Ohtani and the other Japanese stars on this team are so important here, of the way the culture kind of rallies around them. And yeah, like you see it, like we were talking about this before we left. Is there like an American athlete that would cause this kind of commotion, you know, if they were playing overseas and then came back? Like there's not really a comparison. And that's what, to me, has been cool so far about being here, is being able to see that, you know, again, just kind of looking at this scene. I think we're only going to see more of it over the next couple of days as they get into the actual games. And we see Sasaki for the first time, Yamamoto pitch on opening day, and obviously Ohtani playing back in front of his home country.
Yeah, fame just kind of is at a different level in this country, right? We're talking about a society, really, that's for the most part monoethnic, monocultural. You know, like in the United States, the reality is that, right, as famous as Taylor Swift is, there are significant parts of our population that just like don't listen to her music at all. LeBron James, right? Sure. Some people don't like him because he's trying to uplift black people, right? No, seriously, right? And so here, though, like kind of once everybody kind of decides, hey, this is good, everybody kind of jumps on board, and you kind of like look at, right? I mean, the fact that the World Series last year, more people in Japan watched it than in the United States, I think really kind of says everything, right? They get TV ratings for their hit shows that American TV executives can only dream of, because again, once something gets popular, it's like, hey, this is the thing to watch.
For their hit shows, for like every press conference the Dodgers do of like Japanese players when they introduce them. All right, so from a baseball standpoint here, we haven't talked since spring training ended. Obviously, there's been a lot of attention on Ohtani, on Sasaki, Yamamoto starting opening day. There's a lot of other new pieces of this team. Let's start with Ohtani. At the plate, he looked good during spring, coming off the shoulder surgery. But he stopped throwing bullpen sessions right before he started hitting in actual games again. Dave Roberts has kind of walked back that May target for him to resume pitching. How much do you make of this? The Dodgers have said it's not because of an injury, it's not because of anything that happened. Ohtani himself yesterday said his throwing program was going so well that it actually gave him a luxury to kind of slow things down and not have to deal with the logistical headaches of trying to keep the throwing program happening once they came over here and did this trip. But what do you make of this and kind of where he's at coming into the year, focusing on being a DH now, with still an intention to at some point get back to pitching?
Yeah, I mean, and this is kind of more speculative on my part, but my guess is that, again, like you said, he's probably reaching velocities that might be dangerous to reach only X months post-op, right? So at this point, maybe it's better to kind of slow it down, even though he's kind of feeling good. You know, time is time. You can't microwave healing, right? I mean, if not, guys wouldn't be on the DL for as long as they are. So
you just hit the button on the thing, like, okay, UCL
right,
surgery, shoulder surgery.
Yeah. And I think, right, especially a guy like Ohtani, who, I mean, if we go back even to last year and how dedicated he was, like with the throwing program, I think people kind of forget, right? You know, I know people think like, well, this is their job. He should be going out and throwing every day and this and that. That gets hard to do when the finish line is more than a year, you know, out in front of you. And so the fact that he's kind of been able to do this, you know, and kind of get to this point, like, again, like he's probably ahead. Again, we're talking about kind of an abnormal athlete. And, you know, look, probably one way to do it would just be like, hey, just keep going, you know, pitch tomorrow, you know. But again, because the one thing the Dodgers do have is depth. They paid a lot for this depth. You know, you got 10 starting pitchers, hey, you might as well use it.
Yeah, so one of the key pieces of that depth is going to be Roki Sasaki, who had what I'd say is a really interesting spring camp. He comes over from Japan. He has like ace caliber stuff. That's one of the things that anybody around the Dodgers will point to. Just look at the fastball velocity. They marveled at the splitter. You know, he throws it, it breaks one way sometimes, it breaks the other way. He can throw it in the zone for strikes. He can drop it out of the zone for swings and misses. But on the other side, he still doesn't have a ton of comfort with a specific third pitch yet. His command was a little spotty, especially in some of his earlier sessions of the spring. And I think there was some question going into his Cactus League starts about exactly how it would look, exactly where he was at and his progression as, you know, a 23-year-old pitcher who is talented but also raw. Since then, he pitched 7 scoreless innings in the Cactus League. He looked pretty good. I think it kind of assured maybe him and the team and just people around camp that, okay, even if he's got a lot of room to develop, his stuff can still play at the big league level, but it's going to be another challenge here facing the Cubs. We saw what happened to Yoshinobu Yamamoto last year in his MLB debut in Korea when he got knocked around for 5 runs in a first inning against the Padres. So what have you made of Roki's camp? What are you expecting here, and kind of what are you expecting this year out of him for, again, a guy that probably wouldn't be at the big league level from his level of polish, if not for just how good he is with the raw stuff?
Yeah, you know, it kind of reminds me of when Clayton Kershaw was breaking into the major leagues, and he was kind of fast.
So we're setting the bar really low.
So he was. Oh, it's gonna get worse. Okay, so it was fastball, curveball, and that was a question that was kind of posed to Joe Torre at the time, who was the manager. Joe Torre's response was, well, Sandy Koufax only had a fastball and curveball, and you kind of look at that splitter like
only Roki was left-handed.
Right? I mean, you look at the forkball, right? I mean, I guess he holds it like a little bit deeper,
even
right?
Mark Pryor's like we're not sure what to call it, but it's more than just a normal splitter.
You do wonder, like, because the raw stuff's so good, maybe he can get away with this. Like, I don't know, right? I mean, I do think that there are going to be limits onto how much he can do because of the workload, right? I think he threw about 110 innings last year. You know, what is he going to do? 130, max 140 with the playoffs?
I mean, yeah, maybe with
you know,
the postseason. I don't see anybody on this team going much past 120, 130.
So I think from that standpoint, it's going to be somewhat limited. But I do think he's going to strike, regardless. I mean, here's the thing, right? Even if his ERA ends up being like 5, he's going to strike out a ton of guys.
Yes.
So I think, you know, I don't know. Like, I think he's aesthetically kind of pleasing to watch in a way, right? It's just kind of very unique, right? He's got like the high leg kick. There's a fluidity there. And, you know, you look at like pitchers that kind of become popular overnight, you know, I'm kind of thinking like Tim Lincecum, granted, totally different motion, totally different type of pitcher. But he's, right, unique motion, very kind of fluid and kind of athletic, and he strikes out a lot of guys. So I think regardless, he's going to be like a popular player, you know, and the big thing with him, obviously, is like the injury thing, right? I don't think that there are any questions about that. He himself cited that as a main reason for wanting to come now, is that, his first year out of high school, he didn't pitch at all, and he kind of revealed that at the time, actually, they recommended Tommy John surgery for him, right? So that to me is going to be kind of the big thing, the health thing, and it does look. Let's not sugarcoat this, right? The Dodgers are really good at hurting pitchers, so.
Oh, that was the non-sugar-coated version. Yes, we've covered this a time or two.
Yeah, we have.
The track record.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I look at Roki, I kind of wonder about like the confidence part, because that was a big part with Yamamoto last year, and that was a guy who had been a 3-time MVP over here, who had a much more extensive professional track record, kind of knew who he was as a pitcher a lot more. I kind of agree with you. I think like Roki this year, there's going to be games where he has 10 strikeouts and 6 scoreless innings, and then there might be some games where he gives up, 3 or 4 home runs and gets knocked around a little bit if the fastball command's a little off, or he's not landing the splitter, or he's facing a team that is kind of figured out like what to expect from him. The challenge in his situation is, okay, as you go through the highs and lows of a rookie MLB season, can you keep that confidence up, right? Especially as a guy who made 64 starts here in the MPB. That's what I'm kind of curious about, and I think it starts here on what will be kind of a high pressure stage, right? He's back in front of his home country. When he left here this offseason, it was under atypical circumstances. There was some consternation about the fact that he was leaving early before he had done some of the things like Yamamoto or Ohtani had done, and I think this will be a good first interesting test. But the one thing to me that the spring cleared up for him, like you said, is the stuff really does play when the fastball is back up at 99, when he's able to throw the splitter like he is. There's not a lot of guys, even at his age right now, that can kind of match what he's got.
I got a question for you. So you were down on the field yesterday, you talked to some of the players, you poked your head into the clubhouse, and I know that doesn't tell you everything, but
the very big, spacious
The one thing
clubhouse.
about these Dodgers, I do think, right, they've been very good about kind of shutting out outside noise. This isn't just kind of noise, right? This is like, right, it's so big it feels like.
Sure.
How does this not like get into the room, right? Because, I mean, they go out there, I mean, the fact that the crowd went nuts. You would have thought a football team, an NFL team, had scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter, right, with like 30 seconds left, when Ohtani just took the field to go, practice his leads off first base. I mean, how do you think, right, and like you mentioned, right, they haven't like played in a while now. They're going to get these 2 exhibition games to kind of get acclimated again. But any concerns on your part that like, they might not be able to kind of play that, what Dave Roberts calls Dodger baseball?
I think they're going to kind of relish this. When you think back to like the last couple seasons for this team, there haven't been a lot of like showcase moments outside of the postseason, right? Like there's been some big Yankees series, some big Padres series, but other than that, like you haven't really had scenes like this.
I mean, there have been none. The World Series isn't like this.
And I think that's why for the first 2 games of a season, when you are the defending champions, when a lot of I think the pressure to perform is going to be more on Ohtani and Yamamoto and Sasaki than the rest of the team, I think a lot of the other guys have really kind of enjoyed seeing this. Like Max Muncy was talking about this coming off the field yesterday, that when they heard the cheer for Ohtani, he was like, that was a cool moment for us to kind of see like, oh man, even this guy's just mere appearance out on the field causes this kind of commotion, causes this kind of excitement. I think for them it's going to be kind of like 2 normal games. I think it helps a lot that they played in Korea or in South Korea last year and was kind of a smaller version of this, but they had to deal with like a lot of attention there. It was Ohtani's first game. There was a pretty big yes, there were some off the field things happening that they had to deal with. So I'm not really worried about the performance. I think if anything, like this is the trip that a lot of these guys, from the players to the coaches to the front office to, let's see, is there a Guggenheim thing? Yeah, you might see that back there. The entire organization has kind of been waiting for this, and I think the games themselves are going to kind of be a release in some ways of like getting to experience this whole scene, which is something that, again, a lot of these guys haven't really seen before and probably won't get to experience again in their careers.
And one thing I've written a bit about it, now this might not be completely accurate if I really like catalog everything, but kind of Ohtani's ability to just kind of do what's expected of him or even surpass that. We think about the WBC, we think about him homering in that first playoff game last year. Does he homer on opening day here?
I mean, I would be surprised if he doesn't do something. I mean, he homered in the first at-bat of spring this year, and what was like not even that big of a moment, but he was technically coming off shoulder surgery. So like that's where he's at. Like I just kind of anticipate he'll do something that wouldn't expect from anybody other than him.
Was he going to homer? Is he going to homer?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
I was giving some long answer to.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, let's just say you were the house.
How about
I'm
a
not saying
triple?
I'm not saying you're a bookie, but if you were, what kind of odds would you set? Would you be offering? I mean, it feels 50-50.
It would
It's
be
like
a plus odds,
Yeah.
like maybe plus 150. Sure. And I would take that bet too.
maybe FanDuel will sponsor this video. Hey, we're available for sponsorship. Please
true.
contact our great producer, Mark Potts.
Otherwise, we're going to ask Guggenheim to sponsor us too. All right, well, I mean, anything else stuck out to you from this week so far? You want to regale your great encounter with the fans, how much they enjoyed your work?
I don't think they enjoyed my work. I just think they just kind of have seen. You know what it is? It's that picture that got used for Ipe a lot, right? Where I'm
the one where
behind,
you're
from
poking
FanFest.
around.
You know,
Mark, he's going to have to insert it in the edit right here.
My 14-year-old daughter, you know what she said though about that picture? She said that
I'm
I
sure
look
something kind.
She said that like I look like a homeless man reaching out asking Ohtani for money. So,
All right, well,
Naomi, I love you too.
there's a lot more coming up this week. 2 games. We will be doing shows after both of them. Until then, for Dylan, I'm Jack. Thanks for watching.
And for Plashke back home.
And for Plashke.
We love you,
who's,
Plash.
With us in spirit.